Hello everyone.
Hello.
Today we would like to discuss with you The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. This is a discussion video where we talk about all the things that happen within the book, so spoiler alert. Do not watch this if you have not read this book, please and thank you.
You can find our spoiler-free review down below. We will link it if you are interested in watching that.
You're a genius. I'm Jessica.
I'm Christina.
And you're watching Game of Tomes. Okay, so I have to be honest. I'm a little nervous about doing this review.
I almost didn't want to do this.
Because it is a book for and about the Black experience.
Yeah.
Which we do not have.
We, in case you haven't noticed, we are two very white women.
Yes, we are. So, do not let this be the only discussion that you watch about this book. We're going to do the best that we can, though.
Right, yes, from our perspective.
And I really love this book.
I have mixed feelings on this book.
Okay. We haven't discussed this at all yet.
No, not at all.
And so, I look forward to discussing it and hashing it out with you.
Yeah.
Okay, where do we start?
Well, you've rated it.
Oh, I did rate it. I rated it 5 stars.
Okay, I have not rated it because here's the thing. I feel like I had to force myself to get into this. And so I didn't really feel connected to the characters, and I didn't feel into it until like the last half, maybe less. And I was still like, But then Jessica sent me a documentary on Toni Morrison's life, which she obviously is in, and hearing her discuss it and other people discuss it made me appreciate it and kind of realize maybe some things that I was missing in it. And then also watching a couple other people do their reviews and discussions about it, it kind of got me to appreciate it more and enjoy it more, if that makes sense. So
sorry, let's link that BBC documentary down below. Is 2015.
It's only an hour long too. It's not,
I found it super fascinating.
I did too, yeah. And it made me really, really want to read a lot more of her work.
I'm excited. We're going to read Beloved.
Yeah. In April. Yeah. I'm excited for that. I would like to do a review and discussion on that one as well, because that is the one I think that really skyrocketed her career.
It is. This was her debut novel, which we did not realize when we read it.
In the documentary, they were saying that when it was first published, it did not get good reviews, and it was not selling, and I was surprised by that.
I loved when she said that she got $3,000 for doing this book, and then she took her parents and her kids to Aruba, and they had a real good time. Yeah. And I just love that so much.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, definitely watch the documentary, and it's really interesting, and it's really good. Okay, my thing is the writing style was a little confusing for me sometimes as far as switching narratives, and it took me a while to figure out, like, oh, this isn't the same person. Like, it's not the two little girls, the sisters, it's moved on to someone else, and then you didn't find out who it was for a little while. And so that, for me, I was a little lost sometimes, and it took me a little bit to figure it out. But I enjoyed it, though. It was really interesting, and I appreciate the fact that poor Piccola, that's how I was saying her name, Piccola?
That's how I was saying.
The people who had a hand in her sad life were very humanized in this book.
That was my favorite part.
Yeah.
I never thought I could sympathize with a monster that way, and it didn't in any way excuse him.
Yeah.
Talking about Charlie, her dad, who raped and impregnated her. But it, like you said, it humanized him and his mom. They were both incredibly absentee parents.
Absolutely.
And it broke my heart. And it was just like one thing after another for poor Piccola. And like, when she knocked over that pie.
Oh, Yeah.
That's when I was like, she can't do anything. And then her mama ran to the little white girl.
Yeah. And babied her, and then, it's okay, it's okay.
And she had never been there.
Yeah.
And when I read that, I was like, what a bitch. But then you get her point of view, and it's like, I see how she got there. We're not excusing her behavior in any way, but like, this is how she got to be the way she is, and I really appreciated that so much.
And I will say, if you guys, obviously if you're watching this, you have read it. If you haven't read the afterword in the back by Toni Morrison, highly recommend it. Because that's one thing I think she mentioned in that, was that she didn't want to just make them out to be evil characters.
She wanted to demonize them, she said.
Yes, yeah. And I thought that was really interesting, especially considering the time period the book came out in. It came out right in 1970, right after the 60s, and she talks a lot about, in the documentary, the Black is Beautiful movement. I thought, I've heard of that, but I never ever thought of it the way that she put it, but it seems very true when she said that that was not a black movement, that was a movement for the white people.
Because she said, I know I'm beautiful.
Yeah.
Or I don't care about my looks. What is it? Why are we having to say this? And and she was like, I realized that they were having to say black is beautiful because black was not the standard for beauty. They were saying it for white people.
They weren't saying it to empower other black women. They were saying it to make white people understand that. And I never thought of it that way.
Right.
That it was more of a white issue than it was a black issue, honestly.
Right.
But I thought that was really interesting as well. But, and that's brings us around to Pecola and her wanting blue eyes so badly. It's heartbreaking, and I don't remember, you might, because we watched the same videos and stuff.
Okay.
I think it was Climb the Stacks in her review. Somebody had said that they didn't want, like, Toni Morrison didn't want you to just pity Pecola and just, feel bad for her. Like, she meant it more so like, look at what you're doing in somebody's life and like your role of how you affect people and stuff, rather than just like being removed and from a distance and going, I just feel so bad for her. Or just like
sympathizing with her, but not seeing your role in the oppression that's happening on
other people.
Right.
And I thought that was really well said.
Yeah. As far as the writing style goes, I just think, it's a short book. It was like, in my copy, it's like just over 200 pages.
Yeah.
But I think it's so rich. Like, every sentence, there is something to dissect and think about. She is so smart. And just to think, like, this was her debut novel.
Yeah, her first one.
I can't imagine what her other novels are going to be like. I'm so excited to continue on.
I am too.
Okay. Well, I have some notes that I took while I was reading. I really liked in the beginning that you find out that Pecola is going to be raped by her dad, and she's going to lose her baby.
Yeah.
You find that out in the first chapter sentences.
I honestly forgot about her losing her baby, because at the end, where they wanted to plant the seeds and change her life, the sisters, and I almost thought, is she going to have the baby? And then when it referenced back to, the beginning, I was like, oh yeah, I completely forgot about it.
Well, I appreciated it because for me it was a kind of a trigger warning. I would have been kind of upset if I got to the end and that was the thing that happened.
Right.
Just reading about child rape is really, really difficult for anyone, I'm sure. But here she made it like, I almost felt like it was a trigger warning, and just be like, hey, this is what happens, but even though it's a subject that you don't want to read about ever or learn about, it's gonna be okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
And she did it in such a different way, because once I read that beginning, I really thought it was gonna be really focused on Pecola. And it was, but not in the way I expected at all.
Right. It was a lot about the people around her.
Yeah, and their very rich, deep backstories of how they became who they are.
I've heard people talk about how if it had come from Pecola, if she had narrated it, like, she couldn't narrate her own story because
she was too passive to ever narrate her life.
And, like, super depressed, and, like, she couldn't see it.
Yeah.
You would just be getting her obsession and her sadness. It would be a much different book if it came from her perspective.
Yeah.
And I like the way that it was done. Also, Pacola's experience isn't everyone's experience. And I think Claudia is supposed to represent the majority's experience. I don't know if that's right.
Where it's like, it didn't happen to me, but I know someone that it happened to, and kind of removed a little bit from the situation, but still close enough for it to affect you.
Claudia and Frieda, they were the ones who saw Pacola. They were the ones who wanted to help her. And that's why oh my gosh!
Well, I was just thinking about the part where Claudia and Frieda found out about the pregnancy because all the moms were on the phones talking about it, and then they slowly found out about it.
I hated that part
and
so
where
much.
they talked, like, we kept waiting for an adult to say, poor baby, poor girl, but there was only head shaking and, like, she's partly to blame, you know, and that was really sad, because then not only do you feel bad for Pacola in that situation, but also I feel bad for Claudia and Frieda, because they're learning that, oh, okay, well, then it's also the woman's fault, and we don't have sympathy for them or anything like that. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, they're young in this book, so to be raised in that example of not learning, like, that you don't care about someone else's situation, it's just gossip to them. You know what I mean? It was, that was a really sad part.
Yeah, for me too.
They just kept waiting for somebody to say, poor baby, poor girl, you know, and it just never.
And they like prayed.
Yeah.
For her to keep her baby. Just
and
let
like,
her keep her baby.
Maybe if we plant the seeds and say the right words, that we can change it, but obviously, you know, not.
It made me sad that after that happened, that they no longer talked to Pacola afterwards.
Yeah.
I think that's the real, I don't want to say that's the real tragedy, but I think when something bad happens to someone and you don't know what to say, I think it's worse to not ever say anything.
Right, yeah.
At all.
I agree.
It was explained in the book that they didn't talk to her again because they felt guilty because the seeds didn't grow. So they felt like it was their fault that the baby died. And so they felt bad for that reason and didn't talk to her again. And I don't know if that was the best course of action. Okay.
Yeah.
Claudia gets her white doll.
And then the true horrific part was when she wanted to dismember white girls.
Yeah, she said she would dismember the dolls and then get in trouble. And then she was like, what was scary was that I could easily just think about dismembering little white girls. I was like, whoa.
I was like, no.
But it just shows, like, how much hatred she had.
Yeah, internalized towards.
And that whole thing where the other girls loved Shirley Temple so much. Yeah. And she was like, but Bojangles is dancing with
Shirley Temple, and that's my uncle. That's my friend.
That's my dad.
Yeah.
You know, he's putting his affection onto her. And then, you know, the little white girls with the blonde hair and the blue eyes, that's the standard for beauty. And why...
That's who he wants to dance with, and that's what he likes, even though he's
totally
a black...
Get that.
Yeah. It's kind of like, you're not good enough.
Yeah. And I thought it was super interesting when she said, if they had just asked me what I wanted, I would have said, I want this experience. I want an experience. I don't want possessions. Possessions weigh me down.
Yeah.
There are expectations when someone gives you something.
Yeah.
And no one's even asking me what I want. And what she wants is to, you know, sit on her daddy's knee while he plays guitar and...
in the kitchen, and, yeah.
And I don't care about dolls.
And to play just for her and have that experience and that connection.
Mm-hmm. And that was really beautiful and sad and true.
Yeah.
Or the Breedloves embrace their ugliness. They aren't really ugly, but media tells them that they are. Pacola thinks dandelions are beautiful, but they're called weeds and no one likes them. After the clerk embarrassed her at the candy store, she decides that she no longer likes dandelions.
I thought about that today. My son
I did too.
kept bringing us dandelions.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I'm also not sure what exactly classifies them as weeds over flowers. I've always thought of them as flowers.
Yeah.
Just flowers.
When you're a kid, you're like, they're flowers.
They're flowers when you're a kid. I'm not going to sit and tell my son, who's 4 bringing me flowers, I'm not going to tell him they're not flowers.
Yeah.
You know? They're beautiful in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Pacola.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway.
And that was an obvious correlation that I think
right, yeah.
Morrison was making, was that the Breedloves, they think they're ugly. Even if they aren't.
And said, okay, well, we are what you say we are.
What I really like about this, too, is that I feel like Toni Morrison really reminds me of what it was like to be a kid and to be in, like, constant existential crisis. I thought she did a really good job of just, like, reminding me what it was like to be completely in the moment.
Yeah.
And I thought she wrote that so beautifully. So, when we get Paulina's, Pacola's mom's perspective, she talks about going to the movies for the first time and how after her education in movies, this is a quote, to look at a face and not assign it some category in the scale of absolute beauty she was never able to do. So, I was just like, yeah. So, once somebody is in the movie, are we, like, we're holding, like, that's the standard
right
now.
Yeah, that's the beauty standard. That's what.
And she would look at their beautiful homes and just not want to go back to her own home and her drunk ass husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that carries over to now. Now we have, Pinterest, and
yeah,
and we look at our lives and we're like, are we good enough?
Yeah, and we've had discussions about that where we get in the moods where we feel like our house isn't enough, like we need to change it, make it more beautiful, and instead of being appreciative of what we have, we're guilty of that too, and we've talked about that, and that is, something difficult I think everybody struggles with in their life. But the thing about Pauline's story that got me was, she was talking about she got dolled up to go to the movie. She did her hair like a movie star and everything. And then she sat down and she bit into a candy bar and lost a tooth. And to me, that was when she, in my mind, I felt like that was when she really shut down and was like, I'm not beautiful. I'll never be like a movie star. And this isn't me. So I should just resign myself to who I really am.
That was so sad.
And that got me. And I did not think, because being mothers, just knowing the way that she was towards her children, like Bacola and her brother, I was just like, ugh, you're the worst. Like, I hate you. And how she was to the white girl and not her own children. And it was just really upsetting. But then I got to that part and, like, I can really relate to that. Who doesn't want nice things? And who doesn't want to feel beautiful and be beautiful and kind of relate to that beauty standard, but then to be knocked down a peg, and then just giving up and resigning to it, I felt really bad. And that's when I was like, oh.
Yeah.
That is actually the chapters that I really started to enjoy a lot more.
I really like that chapter.
Yeah.
With her. And then we get Charlie's experience.
Oh, man. This guy.
Where do I start with that?
I didn't relate to him as much as I did the mother.
I didn't either.
And whether that be because he's a man, first of all, whether that be from the male point of view, or whether it just be from...
I couldn't understand his choices.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't relate in the same way. He had that traumatic first sexual experience.
Oh my gosh, that was...
It was...
awful.
It was so bad. And then he focused his anger onto her because he can't
control, and that's what I thought was, he can't control the white men who are doing this, that the one thing that he could control was her, because he can find her again, he knows who she is or whatever.
And he literally has control of her body.
Right, and that's what I took, it was he projected all of his anger onto her because that's one thing you can control in that situation. You can't do anything to the white men with the guns pointing at you.
Right.
And so the only thing you can project your anger onto is her. And I felt terrible for her being a woman.
Right. I didn't understand it personally. Like, I don't know what I don't know what I want to say. I was going to say I don't know what I would do, but I don't feel like that would be what I would do. But how do I know?
To continue on?
No, to just... No. I mean, like... to feel anger towards her.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
But like, he couldn't control that. So if he knew that that was the wrong response, then okay. But it seemed to translate in
throughout his entire life. That was how he
Yes.
was towards.
And that's why he ended up.
Yeah. But then I felt bad for him too, not just from that situation, but, and this is terrible, but Toni Morrison is such a great writer that when he came in drunk and he was looking at his daughter and how clean and pure that she was, I felt bad for him.
Yeah.
Because his whole life, he's never had anything nice or clean or pure, and he's just kind of like rationalizing it almost in his head of just, I deserve one good thing in life. You
But
know what
at
I
the
mean?
same time, he hated her.
Yeah.
It was
It was really, really strange. Really strange. But
I don't. I don't.
sorry. I don't know. I don't know how pedophiles think, but the way she wrote that, I thought that was probably pretty realistic.
I have no idea.
How they rationalize it, but then they're also
Yeah.
angry about it because they're angry at themselves for wanting to, but yet I don't know.
The part when I felt for him the most was when he went to go see his dad.
Oh yeah.
And he met his dad, and he choked a little because he was like, I didn't prepare what I was going to say. And the guy was like, get the fuck out of my face.
Tell that bitch she'll get her money. Yeah.
And he just
And then
lost
he had
it.
Yeah, sat on the orange crate, and then he had an accident and pooped his pants. I don't know how to say that without laughing.
Right.
And I feel so bad for laughing, but he pooped his pants. But being a child, and you're literally in a place that you don't know anything about, and then when he ran and hid for hours and hours and hours, and then tried to wash his clothes out, and it was tragic.
It was the saddest.
Yeah.
So that little boy with the cat.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
I
gosh.
hated that so much. Little psychopath kid. Never got any love from his mama. His mama gets
Only-
more sexual pleasure from a cat
Yeah.
than her
Yeah.
husband.
Yeah. That was very strange.
That was so weird
very
and
strange.
sad. Oh, and did you read this and at one point think Grapes of Wrath?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so there was a section where Morrison introduces that woman, I don't know her name.
I don't remember. her
Cat
name.
lady.
Yeah.
We'll call her
Cat
Cat
lady. I think that's a very apt name for her.
Anyways, okay, so she introduces Cat Lady in the collective experience type language. She uses like everyone's experience to explain this one person. John Steinbeck did that in Grapes of Wrath when he was talking about the migration out west.
Oh, yeah.
This is a migration up north. It's called the Great Migration, I'm pretty sure, if I remember my history, when black people moved up north. And the language that she used was very similar to that in that one section. I really liked that writing style, and I was excited by that, and I thought maybe you would have picked up on it.
No, I think I just struggled. I was kind of just like not feeling like doing anything this week, and I was personally just feeling like really moody and mood swingy this week, and so I feel like that really impacted my reading experience with this greatly, I would say.
Gotcha. Well, I thought that there was like a sex scene in that part with Cat Lady and her husband, and I thought that contrasted with the really good sex scene between Charlie and Paulina, when Paulina was talking in her voice and looking back on when the times were good.
Yeah.
And I thought she wrote that really well. I don't know. I think I was glad that she put that in there, actually, that sex scene between Paulina and Charlie, because that first one was so horrible and sad.
Yeah.
And, like, does it have to be that way for everyone? She almost wrote it that way.
Yeah.
And
then when she was looking back at the sex when they were good, and she was saying like,
you put your arm around me when you said that. I was like, what?
She was saying that she couldn't go until he did because she wanted to feel like in me, and I thought that was really, really powerful, and I really did like that a lot. Just, I don't want to go into detail about it, but you've read it, you know, but I thought it was so well written, especially like when you first get in a relationship with someone and you're crazy about them and you're so in love and you just want to become a part of them, you know what I mean, and have them become a part of you, and I think it really felt that way, and I think she captured it really well. Yeah. And then it was such a stark contrast to
Cat Lady. Don't let your sex be like Cat Lady.
Man.
Okay.
One thing we haven't talked about is the priest guy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Soaphead Church and his letter of horrors to God.
Oh, yeah. That was so... I don't know how to explain it, but when he was like, I did your work for you, you're welcome, I was like, what? What? It was crazy to me.
That was the craziest letter ever.
And I also... He couldn't bring himself to kill the dog, so he made Pecola do it. That, and he not only that, but he told her, stay and watch, like pay attention to how the dog acts. So she stood there and watched the dog die, knowing that she caused that, obviously, because she wanted blue eyes, and
And then move on from him, because
yeah, I don't have much to say about him, but just the dog scene and stuff.
I didn't really understand why. Just why.
I don't know.
And then like he justified liking little girls and stuff.
Oh, oh yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot about that.
That was the creepiest part of this whole book. Yeah. I don't know.
Oh yeah, 'cause he would give them ice cream.
Yeah.
But he mentioned that they came back. Okay, yeah. I want to move on from him because I don't... His backstory was also probably the main one that I didn't understand.
Yeah, me too.
But, like...
I could understand, like...
They were getting...
The letter and, like, him being like, I'll give you blue eyes. Here you go, darling. But I didn't understand why we needed to get his backstory and, like...
I couldn't connect his backstory to who he was now, I think, is my issue. Because I understand that his family was, had white blood mixed in, if I read that correctly. And so they kind of thought of themselves as better because they were whiter and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But I struggled with making a connection, I think, with, like, his backstory. And then, like, how he was, I don't know.
Yeah.
That one was harder for me to
understand. Yeah, me too. To dissect.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay, so the last scene of the book was so sad.
I did not understand it until I watched the documentary. And
really?
Toni Morrison talked about it, yeah. I didn't get it.
Oh.
And I felt really bad about that.
No, I got it. I don't mean to say it. I feel like weird
saying
that.
No, if you got it, you got it.
Yeah.
I think Toni Morrison wanted you to get it, obviously.
I got it.
Yeah.
So, she thinks she has blue eyes. She's gone crazy.
Well, that's what the priest said, too, is she'll think that she has blue eyes.
Did he say that? I don't remember that.
I thought he had said that when she looks in the mirror, she'll think that she has blue eyes, and that's what matters now, or something like that. It was weird. It was a little confusing, that whole scene, to me.
Mm-hmm. I think at first you're like, oh, she's got her wish.
Yeah.
And then you realize she's going crazy, and she thinks she's got her wish.
Yeah.
And she's talking to an imaginary person.
Yeah, because at first I kept thinking it was like Claudia or someone, but she just kept wanting bluer and bluer and bluer eyes. Like, she wanted them to be the bluest in the whole world.
And they still weren't enough.
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't connect that it was herself talking to her.
Oh.
Until I think Toni Morrison mentioned it in her documentary. Mm-hmm. And then also you sent me that artwork thing, which I thought was brilliant.
Mm-hmm. I really like that.
I did too. We'll link this thing below. We should link that because I really like that.
Mm-hmm. There was like motion art depicting the last scene of the book, and I thought it was really good. I watched it like 5 times.
In the mirror, looking at herself in the mirror with herself sitting next to her with brown eyes and blue eyes, and then then reality kind of seeps in, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
And then it talked about at the very end of her digging through garbage cans and stuff, and I just, I felt really bad.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
This book was really sad.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I read it.
I feel better after discussing it.
Yeah.
I just kind of struggled while reading it, and I definitely think my mood had a really big impact, because I was just like, ugh. I went so far as to break down how many chapters per day I needed to read it to get it finished by Friday, because I was just not feeling it.
Gotcha.
But after watching the documentary and some other reviews and talking about it with you, I do really enjoy it, and I can definitely see I would like to reread it when I'm in a better mood.
Okay.
But
that's fair.
I'll probably give it 4 stars right
Cool.
now. I think now that we've talked about it, I can decide what to rate it. I think I'm going to give it 4 stars.
Okay. Nice, yeah. I'm excited to read Beloved next month.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Okay. Hopefully we didn't mess this whole thing up and...
Sorry, this is probably super long.
Yeah, we'll have to edit this down.
If you stuck in there, thank you. And please, please, please let us know what you thought about it below. We would love to discuss.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for watching When You Play the Game of Tomes.
You read or you die.
Come be our friends. Social media links in the description below.
And we hope you're reading a great book.
Bye.
Bye.
Lost, what felt like it all in a game. Every man I've measured died to hurt me before I could ever feel safe.